Today we will be discussing the relationship between breakfast and cognitive performance and discussing the saying, is breakfast the most important meal of the day? The saying of breakfast being the most important meal of the day comes from Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, whose last name you might have noticed on the cereal boxes walking down the aisle, and it comes from his efforts to promote his own breakfast cereal. Today we are discussing if this actually has some truth behind it or if it's just a marketing strategy used for the cereal companies. So what does the research say? I'll start with this study conducted by the American University's Health Department because this study focuses on us, college-age students. The aim of this study was to compare the effects of the nutritionally balanced breakfast on cognitive function in college-age students with and without ADHD. Overall, a significant proportion of those with and without ADHD reported not typically eating breakfast before the study. Participants completed a computerized cognitive assessment after an overnight fast and then again 1 hour after consuming a nutritionally balanced breakfast shake. It was found that there was an overall improvement in both groups, and 1 hour after consuming their breakfast shake, both groups demonstrated improvements in the 4 cognitive function domains measured. After adjusting for age, sex, GPA, and their year in school, those with ADHD were 7% more likely to improve in reaction time 1 hour after consuming a balanced breakfast than those without ADHD. So both groups did display improvement, but this was seen to be especially beneficial for those with ADHD, specifically within the cognitive functioning of reaction time. The study also noted in its discussion that carbohydrate-dense and fat-rich breakfasts have been shown to improve attention in other studies analyzing breakfast, and cognition and protein-rich breakfasts were shown to improve reaction times. Other studies analyzing the relationship between breakfast and cognitive functioning tend to vary in methodology, including variable testing, administration times, and macronutrient compositions, which adds a layer of complexity when trying to compare results from study to study. This next study aim is to determine the influence of breakfast in school-age children's cognitive abilities, and this study includes factors such as age, whether or not they have breakfast at home, and socioeconomic status. So in this study, 1,181 children and adolescents ages 18 to 8 participated in a crossover design study. And within the study, 7 different food groups were examined according to the German diet, and on the left shows those groups in the study. They used tests that measured the cognitive domains of information processing, memory, and concentration to determine the nutrition's influence on these elements of cognition. The comprehensive evaluation of all assigned test foods showed a significant improvement in the mental performance for all test parameters. It was also found that the measured improvement of mental performance does increase with the age of the subjects. Having breakfast at home was also found to be generally more effective when compared to kids that have breakfast at school. Researchers have also noticed that poorer breakfast habits of young people in secondary school. So offering school breakfast is even more highly recommended as an effective instrument for improving mental performance in secondary schools. Another study was conducted within the population of school-age children in academic and cognitive performance to examine the relationship of breakfast and snack consumption with academic and cognitive performance, as well as physical activity in adolescent students. Breakfast and snack consumption was collected by a self-administered and 24-hour calorie intake questionnaire. Academic and cognitive performance was then measured by the final exam scores and cognitive function questionnaire, and physical activity status was measured using the International Physical Activity Questionnaire. The results indicated that the breakfast meal had a significant effect on academic performance. However, the non-significant effect was found for snack meals. It was shown that breakfast and snack meals predict 79% of cognitive performance, 77% of academic performance, and 70% of physical activity levels. So, in conclusion, breakfast and snack consumption, but mostly breakfast due to the non-significant effect of snacks found within this study, had a beneficial effect on students' cognitive functions, academic performance, as well as physical activity levels. So now you may ask yourself, how can I use this research for myself? So maybe an obvious answer, but stop skipping breakfast. You don't need to get up at 7 a.m. to have breakfast. Breakfast is just breaking your fast of eating that you had sleeping. So if you get up at 10:30 to 11:30, it might be considered more of like a brunch time or early lunch, but you still need to have this meal near the time you start your day to see the cognitive improvements highlighted in the studies. And secondly, make sure you're having a breakfast that is relatively nutritious. So, back on how Kellogg's created the saying, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, the research does support this, but it's safe to be concluded that this doesn't include highly sugary cereals Kellogg's makes like Fruit Loops. Cereals that contain multigrain fruits, yes, that would be more appropriate and more nutritious. So, to make sure you have a breakfast that is nutritious, there are some nutrition guidelines here on the right side given by the Mayo Clinic. And for the third step, specifically for busy and or lazy college students, make your meals simple for breakfast. This can look like some oatmeal with berries, smoothies that you can get pre-made from the store, make at home, or even tropical smoothie or something like that. Egg sandwiches with avocado or something else, with whole wheat bread. So now for an ending question, I want to ask if you think this research aligns with your own personal experience. Like, do you notice you aren't as attentive or focused, for example, on days you skip breakfast?